In my last tutorial, I explained how to use Netcat for chatting on Linux machines, and today we are going to do it on Windows platform. As Netcat is not a default program in Windows, we are going to download it from the internet. So let's open our Firefox browser and navigate to the website www.nmap.org/ncat. While scrolling down the page, you will find your link here. It's clearly written that you can download it inside a zip file here. So let's click on it and it will start downloading, as the file is of very small size of about 651 KB, so it will be pretty quick that you download it. Let's see how to install it. Let's check the folder in which the file is stored, and here it's a zip file. So we all might be having an extractor of any kind which will help us to extract this file. So let's start extract here, and it will extract it in the folder. Here you can see it has been extracted, so leave it. Let's check how to install this thing. First of all, it cannot be installed in Windows. It can be run via a command line in Windows. So let's open our command prompt. Let's do a small tutorial of Windows command line. Here the first drive C. This is the first partition, or the partition where our operating system is stored, and these are the directories that are declaring the path. The first directory is our user, and next the Optimus Prime. This is my desktop name, so I am currently on my desktop. Let's check. Here it is in my default C drive. So I have a copy of this Netcat in my downloads folder, but still I will do it in the other way. I have the other copy which is stored in other partition, that is E drive. I will move over to there. For those people who would be having their download path stored to some other partition of their drive, I will do it. In any partition, to move to any partition in Windows, you just have to type the letter followed by a colon. The letter is totally not case sensitive, so if the drive name is capital, you can type small. If it is small, you can type capital. It doesn't matter, it will still move. So when I hit E, and that you can see that I have moved to my E drive. Now to list what is stored in my E drive and to check where it is stored, I will type dir, and here it has displayed the directories which are stored in the E drive. Now Mind software is stored in the forensic kit. I will type cd, which stands for change directory, F, and then hit a tab key. The tab key will complete the letters following the F. If there would be two, it will indicate that there are two folders which are having their name by F. This tab function works in any high-level operating systems or softwares, like it works in Windows command shell, Linux command shell, it works in Cisco, it works in Juniper, and many other things which are of very high caliber. The tab key always works for them. For local, I don't know, it may or it might not. So let's hit enter, then again, then check in where in forensic it is stored. Mine is stored under rats, so I will move to R, tab, enter rats. Let's check again what is stored in rats. There are lots of things which I will tell you in later editions what those things are. Till there, here is my folder, ncat portable 5.9 beta 1, cd and tab, enter, and that I'm in the folder. Now to start it, I just have to type the command which I require to. First let's check what is in there. No, I have one more file there, ncat.exe. and readme file. Doesn't matter, it will still work from here. So I can type the command and start my ncat shell. Let's type ncat -l -b8099 and hit enter. This command will start my ncat server, which is my Windows machine today, and from this side it will be as usual the Ubuntu system. And if I type nc 192.168.43.207 space 8099, I will be in a client mode. So let's type I have a test tomorrow, and here you can see that has been written on our Windows server. And in our Windows, I know it already, and here you can see it works. And to how I knew the IP address of the Windows machine, I have already done that tutorial, but I will show still again. In Windows, you can check your IP address by ipconfig. Here I am using a wireless network adapter, yours might be a LAN, and here is my local IP 192.168.43.207. and in Linux you already know it's if config, and here is my wireless adapter. Okay, now it is against ENP0S3. So how did I knew that it's my wireless LAN adapter? ENP or ESP or EN0, these letters are often in Linux indicate a wireless network adapter, while as a wired network adapter in Linux is indicated against WLAN 0 or WLAN 1, WLAN, it will be WLAN, and any letter it can be only WLAN. So now you would be wondering that why is it ncat in Windows and why is it nc in Linux? And that thing has a history behind it. Basically, the basic tool before a long time was netcat, but the index commands were nc. What then happened that this company netcat, the software was bought by Nmap, the website from which we downloaded it, and when they buy this software they added some advanced command to it. We can check. Let's check what commands do nc have and what ncat have. nc-h will display the help menu, and here are the syntax which can be added to the commands. They are displaying that what the following things do. You don't worry about them, I will show you everything that it will do with these commands integrated with some other things in my future videos. And let's see what ncat has for us in Windows. ncat-h. You see the help menu in nc is up to z, and while as in ncat it is up to w, but after w it has some advanced commands like proxy, it has SSL, it has SSL cert, SSL key, SSL verify, SSL trust file, SSL version. These commands are used for advanced things. Let me tell you one more thing, that it's not only used for texting. This software, you can copy or send files or transfer files with the software. I will totally show how would it happen. Day by day will be growing more and more. I will be trying to tell you more and more, make you learn more about this tool. So let's see what these advanced versions would do for us. if you check my last tutorial and create an environment like that and then monitor it under any network protocol analyzer tool like Ethernet Cap or Wireshark, whatever you like, there are many of them, you will see that if you monitor the frame won't be encrypted. What I wrote on one side and the other side would be indicated in a clear text. But if I wrote the same command, ncat --ssl space -l space -p8099 and hit enter, this command, this thing what we added in this command --ssl, what this will do, let's check here, --ssl connect or listen with SSL. SSL is a type of encryption which works on transportation layer. It stands for session security layer, and it works as a data encryptor. Now on the other side, if I type the same command nc 192.168.43.207 and the port number, and I write something and hit enter, it won't do anything. Why? Because our server is running with an SSL encryption and our client is without an SSL encryption. So if you have studied computer science, or if you have studied electronic engineering, IT engineering, you will be clearly knowing that the first rule of electronics is that for any two mediums to communicate, they should both be on a same type of communication link. Here the communication link is LAN or WAN or whatever, can be fiber, can be wireless, but the medium what we are sending through, they are different. Our server is using a different protocol and our client is using a different protocol, which would be a totally mismatch of protocols. Now if you observe this environment under a Wireshark, you won't find anything. But if I install the modern ncat on a Linux environment and type the same command, the command I have written over there, nc --ssl, IP address of the machine and the port number, it will start communicating directly to my Windows machine without any problem, and for sure that's going to work 100%. So what we can sort or understand from here is that that ncat which we downloaded from Nmap website is a modern version of ncat, and the nc that is by default installed in Linux systems is the older version of ncat. However, the tool will do exact same things. If we work up to W on both sides, they are fine. But if you want to go some advanced features like sending networks, sending proxies or whatever, using proxies over networks, then you have to use ncat. Now that was a tutorial for Windows, because most of you would be a Windows user and wouldn't have been able to understand my last tutorial. So now from here you can go on. You have here's a usage. You see this is a usage ncat option hostname port. So this is how the command is used. If you ask me how I do know these things, from this usage which is mentioned over here, this just gives me idea how to use it, and I just try it. This is a fact that this is not a fact, this is also a reality, that if we compare the terminal of Linux and Windows, terminal I will say here would be the command line of Windows and the command line of Linux, the Windows command line will totally fall short in front of Linux. If I remember correctly, there are near about 1900 to 2100 commands in a Linux machine, while as in Windows there aren't that much. Uh, there are many differences between a Windows command line and Linux command line. The commands are a lot different from each other and work totally different. If you ask that why I use command line, because command line is much faster than GUI. If I try to copy or cut or delete or from one destination to another, I have to transfer a file in a GUI. It will take a lot of time to browse through the folders and to look at the location and look where the file is stored, while as if I move to the Windows command line and I type, let me go to C drive first because I will show you something. So here I am in C drive, I want to look for something, some sort of file. I can type dir and a / and s. This s will show everything that is stored in our C directory, and let it enter and it will start blowing like a hacking terminal. It's just for fun, not a big thing about it. So this is how I am watching or seeing a lot of data in my drive in front of my eyes, and I can monitor that I want this file, this is in here, location, and this was pretty quick. While as if I go to my GUI and start searching, first it will bother or test my memory that what I had written, the name of the file, why I had stored it, and in which drive it, and it will be pretty lousy. And there's one more thing about the difference between Linux environment and a Windows environment. The biggest difference I see in a Linux environment and a Windows environment, I see that Linux are pretty much faster than Windows, and you will note how, because when we start our Windows machine, it starts services abruptly, many of them which we don't require, and that takes our processing speed, that lowers our processing speed and capitalize a lot of RAM. While in Linux, it doesn't launch any unnecessary program. You want to run something, you can go into command, you can manually type it and run it. So that's why Windows is I will say a slow machine. There's one more thing about Windows and Windows users, that they use computers but they don't understand computers, because they are never allowed to touch the core of the operating system. While as in Linux, if you're the root user, you can do anything, any damn thing that you want to do inside the operating system of the machine you want to change. For example, I will tell you the developers in that's a funny thing to hear. The developers in Microsoft themselves don't use Windows. It's a fact, you can search it, any platform, Facebook, Google, you can Google it, that they don't use Microsoft, because they know that what we have created, yes, it is a good embedded platform. It's pretty easy to use. That's why it's the biggest selling operating system in the world, because it's easy to use. But if you are from the field of IT, you should be familiar with Linuxes, because the best servers in the world are on Linux. The biggest servers on the world are run on Linux. The biggest enterprises on the world run on Linux. The smallest machines in the world run on Linux. The biggest supercomputer of the world is powered by Linux, and the first smallest computer of the world was powered by Linux until Microsoft launched its mini version recently, some months ago, which doesn't capitalize that much of space, but again, it's slow in there. If you want to be a developer, want to be a hacker, doesn't necessarily be to hacker. If you want to be a computer expert, if you start to understand Linuxes, you will master Windows by itself. You will say how? Let me tell you how. If I ask a Windows user that how many modes does his network card have, he won't be able to answer me, because usually what he does, he clicks over here, do a right click and open network and sharing center and go to whatever he wants to do. For him, there are two modes, wireless and wired. Basically, they are not modes, but what he sees on the screen, he will say that. But if you ask this thing to a Linux user, he will say there are 8 modes on which a single network card can operate. So you just stay tuned and keep watching my tutorials. I will be explaining more and more. Basically, my reason to create this channel was for our students, for our young students who are pursuing BTech, MCA, BCA. What we are taught in being myself a Kashmiri, I totally understand that what I was taught in a college and what I learned after the college in a practical field, they were totally different things. If you ask a student what is RAM and ROM and he defines it, he would be right in his own means. But if he asks me, for me, I always read from book that RAM was some kind of temporary memory where files are stored, but I was never having a clear concept what a RAM was until I came into field and started working and came to know what RAM practically did. It just took the files from our main operating system and handed it to the processor. The simplest definition I can throw to a student today. But our book writes a whole lot of page on RAM. There are thousands of things. I can guarantee you that thousands of people running Microsoft Windows, they won't be totally knowing that they might be having the best computer configurations of the time, but they won't be able to use those resources. For example, I will show a small example here. I will go to msconfig folder of my Windows. So it's not a big thing, but it is a big thing for a professional, maybe not for a layman. Normally, if the modern processors, they are multi-core. The modern processors are multi-core. But do you know that in a Windows machine, any machine powered by Windows, only the one core of the processor would be working at one single time? You can mark my words that if I am running a multi-core processor on a Windows machine, only by default only one core of my processor would be working. If I don't enable the other cores of the processor, how is my processor going to be faster? So there's a lack of knowledge in our guys. Yes, I open this msconfig, I can go to boot, I can hit advanced options. Here you can see by default number of processor is stored to 1, so the only one core of my processor is currently working. But if I click here and type it, I have 4 processors because my processor is a quad core processor. If you are using an octa core processors, there will be 8, and if you move these letters to 4, 6, 7, 8, more cores are going to be utilized. Now you will ask me that why is it that Intel or any other brand had made multi-core processors but don't give us the power to process faster by default opening all cores of the processor? Well, there's a reason also behind it. That the reason is that these cores of processors, while 1, 2, 3, 4 or whatever number you are using, only one is working at the current time, because if this core fails, mark my words, if this core of the computer fails, only then the next core would start operating. It's type of backup. How one core fails, falls short or whatever, the second will start operating. And likewise 3, 4, 5. But if I simultaneously open all cores of the processor to work, if something wrong goes in the computer, they are going to fail all my cores. I have seen servers powered by Intel Atom having 32 cores, and when I checked their configuration, only one core was running. Can somebody make me understand that why they purchased it at Atom then? They could have easily purchased a Pentium computer and made it as a server. So that's what I'm trying to convey here, that if we are working on environments, we should be totally knowing what we are doing, what we want to do. So you'll ask me why I have switched back to the one processor, because I don't need the REST 3. When I need the REST 3 for specific purposes, I turn them on according to my need. So that would be enough for today, because the tutorial would be long. Thank you, good night, and farewell, dear friends.